Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you a handful of my favorite luxury beauty products right now. So these are all new to me, and I just wanted to talk about my new favorite products so you could see what I've been trying out and really loving behind the scenes. These haven't necessarily replaced my Holy Grail products, but they are in direct competition for sure. So if you want to see all my current favorite luxury beauty products, just keep watching. And I wanted this to be a nice, simple number like 5 or 10, but I believe there are 8 products here. So it's going to be a weird 8 product favorite list, but let's just get started with complexion. So recently I have rebought the Chantecaille Future Skin Cushion Foundation. This is a skincare foundation. It is cushion, and I picked it up in the shade Nude, and it has just made me fall in love with this foundation again. I really, really like it, especially for spring and summer when my skin is like a little bit oilier. I never have oily skin by any means, but it just gets a tiny bit shiny. And during the fall and winter months, this Chanel Sublimage L'Essence de Teint is my absolute favorite. But these are very, very similar foundations. The Chantecaille definitely is a little bit more mattifying on the skin and has a bit more coverage. So I would say those are the difference. So I know a lot of you ask for a similar foundation that doesn't have fragrance to it and that will work better for oilier skin types. And this is something, like it does work for my dry skin. So I think if you have dry or mature skin, I think you'll really love this. A lot of you in my comments have let me know that you love this foundation if you have mature skin as well. So I think both of these foundations, they're just so beautiful. And I love having, like, the Chanel Sublimage is probably my holy grail, but I like having another option, especially that is a fragrance-free option, because I know a lot of you guys don't like fragrance. And I just like being able to have like a top 2 favorite list. So I'm very glad that I have something else to add to my favorites. I've just been really, really loving that. I also have been really loving this Westman Atelier. This is the Sun-Tone Bronzing Drops in the shade Soleil Parfait 1. This has just been something that I kind of can't stop using. I love to use it as a liquid bronzer. You can use it as a skin tint just all over your face, but I have to admit that I don't love using that as much as I like my Chantecaille, the Sheer Glow Bronze Face Tint. So I do just specifically use this as a cream bronzer, and this is more of a bronzer because it is very neutral. It doesn't have that much warmth to it. It has a little bit of warmth, but it's not a super warm color. So I use this more as like a bronzer. So this is more of a contour bronzer hybrid, and I just love how it looks on the complexion because it's a liquid bronzer that sets down on the skin. So once it sets down, it's not going to budge, but it also doesn't leave behind a powder finish. It leaves a very skin-like finish behind. So I really like this if I just want my skin to look like skin, but I want a really nice bronzed effect as well. I like to just use this on a daily basis and have this as my bronzer. It is just stunning, and I like that it is a liquid bronzer that is more on the matte side. So it just is going to have no sheen. A lot of liquid bronzers, they have sheens to them, and I like that this is just a typical matte bronzer. There's no shimmer particles. It's just very flattering on the complexion. It's easy to use. However, make sure you use a brush to apply this. If you use a sponge, it will remove product underneath. That is something that I have found out the hard way. So just be careful. Use a brush when you apply this, but it is truly stunning on the skin. Another bronzer that I have really fallen in love with is this Dior Forever Nude Bronze. I have the shade O2 Light. So Dior released these in matte and glow formulas, and I chose the glow formula. This isn't a very glowy bronzer though. There is not a sheen. There are no shimmer particles to this. It's just a very nice and smooth and very finely milled bronzer. This is a swatch of the bronzer right here, and I know you're probably like, I can't even see that bronzer. It is a very, very subtle bronzer. It really reminds me of my Hermes because it is so subtle on the skin, and it is almost just a skin enhancer. It really just subtly enhances the skin. It adds a little bit of dimension without it being an obvious bronzer, which I just prefer on my complexion personally. I don't want a lot of contrast. I just look better with a softer contrast on my skin. And I really, really like how this looks. It has a very skin-like finish because it is more of that demi-matte finish. So when I apply it to the skin, it just really looks like skin. It is that type of powder that almost melts into a cream. And I feel like it's because it has this like waxy consistency. It's very hard to explain until you feel it. But because of that, it has this component to it where you apply it like a typical powder and it just really melts into the skin, almost like a big gelée, but this is not a big gelée powder. And it's just really, really, really pretty. I really, really like it. If you are adverse to fragrance, just be aware there is a little bit of a fragrance to it. It's not perfumey. It almost smells like a sunscreen. It's kind of coconutty, but I've just been really enjoying this on my skin. I really like both of these bronzers, and I really like that I have both of them in my collection. I've also been loving this Givenchy. This is the Prisme Libre 4-color pressed powder. This is a mattifying and blurring setting powder in the shade 03 Voile Rosé. Now, I remember Givenchy released this in like a circle compact, and I actually have that in it hard panned, and I really didn't like that powder. But this is an elevated version. This is the most similar to the original loose powder. It is not the exact same though, because this has absolutely no shimmer. There is no sheen, no detectable shimmer particles. This is insanely finely milled. And you get a very subtle color correcting. It's not like a intense color correcting, but it is very soft and very subtle. This is one of the only pressed powders I can use under the eye, and I have no issues. I would say it's the most similar pressed powder that I have found to the Clé de Peau refining pressed powder. Does this beat it? No, but it is very similar. If the Clé de Peau is just outside your price range or you can't access Clé de Peau, this is a really great option. This is quite a perfumey fragrance though, so just be aware of that. I don't love that about this. But I'm just really impressed with this because the original Givenchy loose powder, I know everyone loved it, but I personally didn't, because you could see in daylight that it had a little bit of intermittent shimmer, so you could detect shimmer particles on the skin. And then of course they reformulated it to make it even more shimmery, so those shimmer particles were for sure noticeable. So obviously I wasn't gonna like that one. So I'm really glad that they made a matte version where this has absolutely no shimmer. This works perfectly for my dry skin. I think if you have dry, mature, normal skin, this is going to be a perfect powder, because it's a powder that I can use at the start of the day and I don't need to touch up, but you could use this as a touch-up powder, especially if you have an oilier skin type. You might need to go in again, but I can't say enough good things about this. I really, really like it. It's powder that doesn't look like a powder on your skin. Now, this is something I also picked up, like, I think it was the very last day of the Sephora sale, and this is the Armani eye tint in the shade 25M Sandalwood. So Armani has been expanding their shade range in this formula, and they finally released something that has a little bit more warmth to it. A lot of the shades were very cool toned, very neutral, leaning cool. So I found this one that has a little bit more warmth to it, which I just prefer on my eye color and my skin story, my like complexion personally. So I really love this one. This is 25M Sandalwood. So you can see it looks like quite an intense shade, but you can really sheer it out so that it just gives you a subtle bit of definition. And I have used it on my eyes today. It's just a really nice formula. It is a liquid, so you do have to, like, it will eventually set down, but you do have ample time to play with it before it sets down. And once it sets, it's not going to move, personally for me. And I like this because you can layer it up. A lot of cream eyeshadows, I find that you can just go in with one layer, otherwise they can get gummy. But this liquid, it does layer beautifully if you do want a little bit more pigmentation. I just love how it looks on the eyes as well. And because it's that liquid formula, it almost looks like a cream. They're very similar. So I feel like this is very flattering if you have dry skin or you have mature skin. Very similar to a cream formulation where it's just going to be very skin-like on the complexion. I just love how this looks and how this has lasted. It's a very, very pretty shade. It's easy to work with. You can really sheer it out so you just get a little bit of color payoff, or you can build it up to have something more intense. And I've just been really enjoying this. And I like that it's a little bit different than a typical cream eyeshadow because it's a liquid, and I don't actually work from the applicator and press it onto the eye. I'll work from it on my hand as a palette and go from there. But I just really like the result and the effect that I've been getting with this. Another cream eyeshadow formula. Now this is an actual cream eyeshadow. This is from NARS, and this is the Total Seduction eyeshadow stick in the shade Hustle. Hustle, I believe, is just like a champagne gold. So it is right there. And I really, really love this because this is a shimmer eyeshadow stick that's just going to give you that very sophisticated sheen. It's not going to be one of those chunky shimmers with that intermittent glitter fleck that I just don't like. This is just that very consistent shimmer particle. So I really like that because it just looks really beautiful. It looks very natural on the skin. If you're someone that likes natural makeup looks, this is going to be beautiful. And I like this, that this is very neutral. It is a golden beige champagne kind of mix, and I like that it leans neutral, slightly warm, but it's not too orangey or anything. I just think it's so flattering. Again, I'm wearing it today. I did a tutorial, so I will upload that video next. And I just love the effect that this gets. And once this sets, it does not move all day long. So it's just going to wear all day long. I even have a hard time getting it off the back of my hand. And it's just really beautiful. So if you're looking for an eyeshadow stick that has a little bit of a sheen, but that's going to last all day long, and that's also not that chunky shimmer, that glitter, this is the one for you. It's really beautiful. So you might be thinking I look a little different right now, and my camera ended up dying, and then I had to go out for my anniversary dinner. So I'm back filming the next day. So hopefully this is not too much of a jump and I can pick right back up. But I was talking about the Westman Atelier. These are the Baby Cheeks and Face Trace Sculpting Powder Duo. Petal and Biscuit is my absolute favorite. I did also pick up the Coquette and Mimi shade. And I do really like this, but I am definitely gravitating more towards this. And I just feel like my makeup game has gone up another level by incorporating a little bit of contour into my, not necessarily daily routine, but I do notice quite a difference in the structure of my face. And I just think I look a little bit more put together, and it almost just looks even a little bit more natural if I add a little bit of that structure back into my face using this contour shade. These powders are so, so, so beautiful. They are very easy to build. They're very buildable on the complexion. They also are just very silky, and there's something very blurring about this formula. When I apply it to the skin, especially the cheeks, because you're obviously applying a powder to the front of your face where you may notice more of that blurring capability. But I'm just very impressed by this Westman Atelier powder, and the more I use it, the more I love it. This has become an ultimate favorite, and I really love this shade of pink. You might think that it's not anything groundbreaking and that you probably have a color like this in your collection, but there's something special about this blush shade, and it just works really well on my complexion. My cheeks tend to warm up shades, and they can go a little bit orange on me, so I like to use this underneath some of my maybe warmer blushes to help just neutralize that a little bit, and I'm just really loving this. Even though these are matte shades, there's something that's not a drying matte on the face. Like, they look very flattering. They look very elegant on the skin. They just are very beautifying on the complexion. So I love this powder duo. This is definitely my favorite of all the ones released. So if you're looking for a good contour and then a really beautiful neutral pink tone blush that's just going to complement any look, this is definitely what I would recommend to you. Like I said, I still really enjoy this shade combo, but I'm definitely using this more. Even though I'm not obsessed with the packaging, I don't really love the color story, or I don't think it looks as luxe as some of her other products. I do really like this formula. It is really gorgeous. And then another blush that I have just been loving is this YSL. This is the Make Me blush in the shade 06 Rose Haze. I just think this is the perfect neutral pink. The Westman Atelier Petal is definitely more cool toned, where the YSL is more, it's like a perfect combo of a neutral pink. So it's like a pinky peach beige. So I'm going to swatch all of them. So right here, we have the Westman Atelier Petal. So you can see it's definitely more cool toned than the others. In the middle, we have the YSL Rose Haze blush, which is the most beautiful neutral nude. It's definitely that perfect combo of a peach, a pink, and a beige. So it's really going to flatter any look. You could wear it with a smoky eye, a colorful eye, a red lip. It's just going to really complement anything. And then next to that, we have the the Valentino blush in the shade 09. I did have a request from one of my lovely subscribers to compare the two, the Rose Haze and the Valentino 09. So I just wanted to do that in this video. I would say the Rose Haze and the 09 from Valentino are the most similar. However, the Valentino is definitely more of an orangey warm in comparison, where the YSL leans more neutral and definitely more pink in comparison. And then the the Valentino also has a bit of a sheen to it. It's not that noticeable on a hand swatch, but in person I can notice the difference. But if you're looking for something just a little bit more pink toned than the Valentino, because in person, again, you can really see that the YSL is more pink than the Valentino is. The Valentino definitely is more salmony, a little bit warmer, but they're both very beautiful. But back to the YSL, I do really enjoy this formula. Now, it is different than the Valentino because the Valentino is a cream to powder, where this is just a typical powder product, but it is really special. Again, I feel like it has the same blurring quality as the Westman Atelier. The YSL probably has a bit more pigmentation to it. It's just a beautiful matte shade, and I really like this because, again, it's matte without it being drying, without it being powdery on the skin. It is very flattering. And so I've been just using the Petal as like a base, and then I have been topping just on like the high points right here with a little bit of this YSL, and it just leaves the most beautiful combo. So I've been really, really loving that. All right, I'm actually back again because I just had a request that someone asked if the NARS was comparable to the YSL because they look very similar. So here we have the YSL. And then here we have the NARS. So you can see the YSL is quite a bit more pink and more vivid in color. It is a lot more saturated, where the NARS is more subdued and is definitely, it's like a beige pink in comparison, where the YSL is more of a saturated, intense, vivid pink with like a hint of a deeper beige. But they are similar, but I feel like you could still have both in your collection. So the NARS is definitely lighter, more of that really light pink beige, where the YSL is definitely more vivid, if you can see that comparison. So similar, but not completely the same. They are both matte in their formulas though, so that is another similarity. And a lip product that I am just, I don't want to say obsessed because I really hate that word. I feel like it's very overused. But I've been really enjoying these Merit Signature Lip. So this is the sheer lip liner in the shade Beverly Hills. And I feel like Beverly Hills is literally my lip color. So it gives me a really naturally enhanced lip shade. It's the perfect neutral pink with a little bit of peach to it. So again, it's going to look good with so many different looks because it is quite neutral in tone, and it's also very light in pigmentation. So this probably won't work if you have a deeper skin tone than me, but it's going to be really good if you have fair to medium complexion. And I really like it because I prefer a lived-in look. I like to apply a lip liner and then I will smudge it in, rub it in, so it almost, you can't even detect that you put on a lip liner. That's how I like to wear lip liner. But this removes that part where you have to rub off the lip liner basically, so it looks more lived in. This is just very sheer. So for me, that is what I prefer. A negative is that if you like that lip liner look that you can see edges, you probably won't enjoy this because it is so subtle. And it's also not going to be as long lasting because it is more of a sheer formula. That's just what happens when you have more sheer products. It's not going to be the most long wearing. It leaves behind a little bit of a tint, but again, you might have to reapply. But I don't mind that because I prefer the sheerness of it. I really like that kind of lived-in look. But those are all the makeup products that I've been loving lately that are new releases. I did want to just shout out these Merit. These are the Flush Bombs, but I think I mentioned them in some other favorites videos. They're not super duper new. But the shade Lusitano, I feel like, is gorgeous for the spring and summer months because it's this bright peachy pink color. So I like to top off my makeup looks at the end after I've applied all my powder products just to finish it off. I feel like this texture leads really beautiful to bringing back your natural skin texture. After you've powdered the skin, sometimes the skin can look a little flat or a little dull, or it can just look a little powdery. But you can bring back your skin texture by applying something like this Merit Flush Bomb because this is a very sheer formula. It definitely is sheer in pigmentation, and because of that, because of the sheerness, and it gives a little bit of a dewy finish, it just performs really beautifully on top of powder. Not a lot of cream products will, so be very careful. Don't just top your powder products with any sort of cream blush, but because this is sheer and leaves a little bit of that glossy finish, it somehow just works really beautifully on top of powder and really brings your skin back to life. So I wanted to shout that one out as well. But those are all the makeup products that I've been really, really loving so far, just kind of in the last few months. And I've been really putting them up against my holy grails and kind of competing them next to each other to see if any of these will replace holy grails. But I'd love to hear from you. What are some of your favorite products that have been released lately? Definitely let me know down below because I always love to hear from you and keep the conversation going. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.